everybody. Miss Christian is here for chapter 2 of Harry Potter. Oh, look at you, on time. I'm going to wait a few more minutes to make sure that I can get everybody on here. Sweet. Awesome. All right, I'll wait a little bit longer. You'll see that I'm joined by Akari and Lulu. Lulu stays asleep at all times. Lulu, look this way. Lulu. She's refusing. She's leave me alone. I am asleep. See, all she does is sleep. Hold on. Lulu, say hi to everybody. Look at her little face. She's like, please stop bugging me. Yeah, she's a baby. Yeah, is everybody able to hear me okay? Okay, good. I'm not sure how to help with the sound issue if you can't hear. Yeah, talk to Akari. You don't hear me? Maybe check and see if I'm on mute or something. I'll wait a little longer. Let me know when you guys are all ready to go, okay? And since some of you are here already, I'll go ahead and kind of like review the first chapter for those of you that may have missed part of it. Also, you'll notice like a random video uploaded to me reading the first few pages of Harry Potter. The other two like won't upload or are taking 500 years. Hold on. Hey, don't start. Come on, don't start. I know what you're trying to do.
No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. I'm just messing around with the plug.
Then don't mess around with the plug. Okay. All right, is it working now? Sound everyone working? Okay. So in the first chapter, we were introduced to the Dursley family. Okay, so the Dursley family consists of Aunt Petunia, Mr. Dursley, which they haven't really said his name, and I can't remember his name from the movies, but the dad, and then their son, Dudley. Petunia's sister, Lily, is basically a wizard, right? And she doesn't associate with her sister at all because she's embarrassed by her because she's not like them. They like to be normal like everyone else. I already did. Sorry. Please don't interrupt me anymore. I lose my train of thought. Let me see. Oh, okay. So she pretends that she doesn't have a sister, basically. Who's 04 Kids? I don't know who 04 Kids is. But anyways, let me see. Did someone join that we don't know? Let me see. I don't see anything too concerning. All right. Anyways, so one day, Mr. Dursley, he's on his way to work and he starts noticing all this strange stuff. He's noticing that there's people dressed in robes. Oh, he's noticing that there's people dressed in like cloaks and robes like that are like green and purple. And then he's noticing like he noticed some owls. Oh, yes. Hagrid. I'll talk about him too. What else? Oh, and like all these like, they're shooting stars, like random shooting star showers all over the place. And basically when Mr. Dursley's getting ready to leave to work, he notices that there's a tabby cat, like an orange tabby cat that is like looking at a map. And then when he looks back, he notices that the cat is not doing that anymore. And he's like, okay, I'm just losing my mind. It's fine. But then as he's out, he sees more of the people with the strange cloaks and he hears them talking about the Potters. And he's like, there's no way they're talking about Lily because it's impossible. Come to find out later that basically they are talking about Lily Potter and her husband and then the son, Harry Potter. So then it flashes forward to nighttime. Dumbledore arrives, who's like the top wizard. You know, he's like amazing. He's cool. He's Dumbledore. And then the cat actually is Professor McGonagall. And they're talking about, like, you know, everyone needs to relax. Or Miss Professor McGonagall is saying everyone needs to relax because everyone's celebrating the death of Voldemort, aka he who should not be named, or you know who's like a really evil wizard, right? He's super evil. So then with that being said, because of that, Professor McGonagall starts talking about the rumors. She's saying, "Oh, I hear that they're saying that like Lily and James Potter, Harry's dad, are dead, and Harry Potter is the only survivor." Which, unfortunately, that rumor proves to be true. And then Hagrid, who's like this big giant guy with like this huge beard, comes storming in on a motorcycle from the sky, and he has baby Harry Potter. And yes, he cries hysterically when he has to, you know, leave Harry Potter. So because Harry's only family are muggles, aka the humans, aka Aunt Petunia and Mr. Dursley, Uncle Dursley, I guess we'll call him that for now, and Dudley. And so they have to leave him. And the reason they leave him with this muggle family is because he's like really famous in the wizarding world. And they kind of want him to have a normal upbringing. So in chapter 2, it fast forwards like 10 years later, and I'll go ahead and get started reading. You guys ready? Say, I'm ready. Okay, I'm going to start. All right, so chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass. And if you can see that picture, that is Dudley. We don't really like Dudley. You'll see why pretty soon. Okay. Chapter 2 is called The Vanishing Glass. Nearly 10 years had passed since the Dursleys had woken up to find their nephew on the front step. But Privet Drive had hardly changed at all. The sun rose on the same tidy front gardens and lit up the brass number 4 on the Dursleys' front door. It crept into their living room, which was almost exactly the same as it had been on the night when Mr. Dursley had seen that fateful news report about the owls. Only the photographs on the mantelpiece really showed how much time had passed. 10 years ago, there had been lots of pictures of what looked like a large pink beach ball wearing different colored bonnets. But Dudley Dursley was no longer a baby. And now the photograph showed a large blonde boy riding his first bicycle, on a carousel at the fair, playing a computer game with his father, being hugged and kissed by his mother. The room held no sign at all that another boy lived in the house, too. So they describe Dudley as a baby as like a pink beach ball with bonnets. So he doesn't sound like he was a very cute baby. Just saying. That might be kind of mean. I don't know. Okay, good. All right, let's see. So I'm on page 19 at the very top if you guys happen to have a copy of the book and want to follow along. All right. So basically, when you walk into these people's home, there is no pictures of Harry anywhere. All right, let's see what happens. Yet, yes, Dudley is definitely the favorite because that's their son. Harry is their nephew. Okay. And you have to remember, Harry doesn't know. Harry doesn't know that he's like this amazing wizard that defeated Voldemort. Okay. Yet, Harry Potter was still there, asleep at the moment, but not for long. His Aunt Petunia was awake, and it was her shrill voice that made the first noise of the day. Up! Get up now! Harry woke up with a start. His aunt rapped the door again, so she's like, Up! Get up! She screeched. Harry heard her walking toward the kitchen and then the sound of the frying pan being put on the stove. He rolled onto his back and tried to remember the dream he had been having. It had been a good dream, a good one. There had been a flying motorcycle in it. He had a funny feeling he'd had the same dream before. Now, if you remember, that dream he's having was actually an old memory. That's not nice to say your aunt sounds like that. All right. His aunt was back outside the door. Are you up yet? She demanded. Nearly, said Harry. Well, get a move on. I want you to look after the bacon, and don't you dare let it burn. I want everything perfect on Duddy's birthday. Harry groaned. He's like, What did you say? His aunt snapped through the door. Nothing, nothing. Dudley's birthday. How could he have forgotten? Harry got slowly. Exactly. Dad. Sorry. Help. All right. Dudley's birthday. How could he have forgotten? Harry got slowly out of bed and started looking for socks. He found a pair under his bed and, after pulling a spider off of one of them, put them on. Harry was used to spiders because the cupboard underneath the stairs was full of them, and that's where he slept. So his bed is under the staircase. It's a closet. Like, you know, the closet where you guys put your jackets and stuff? That is where they have Harry sleeping, which is pretty messed up. When Harry was all dressed, he went down the hall into the kitchen. The table was almost hidden beneath all of Dudley's presents. It looked as though Dudley had gotten the new computer he had wanted, not to mention the second television and the racing bike. Exactly why Dudley wanted a racing bike was a mystery to Harry, as Dudley was very fat and hated exercise, unless, of course, it involved punching somebody. Dudley's favorite punching bag was Harry, but he couldn't often catch him. Harry didn't look it, but he was very fast. Thank you. Trying to work on my voices. Perhaps it had something to do with living in a dark cupboard, but Harry had always been small and skinny for his age. He looked even smaller and skinnier than he really was because all he had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley was about 4 times bigger than he was. Harry had a thin face, knobby knees, black hair, and bright green eyes. He wore round glasses held together with a lot of Scotch tape because of all the times Dudley had punched him in the nose. The only thing Harry liked about his own appearance was a very thin scar on his forehead that was shaped like a bolt of lightning. He had it as long as he could remember, and the first question he could ever remember asking his Aunt Petunia was how he had gotten it. Yeah, they treat him very badly, like you'll see as time goes on. So then he asks his Aunt Petunia how he got the scar. In the car crash when your parents died, she had said, and don't ask questions. Don't ask questions? That was the first rule for a quiet life with the Dursleys. Uncle Vernon. So the I forgot. The uncle's name is Vernon. Vernon Dursley. Okay, sorry. Uncle Vernon entered the kitchen as Harry was turning over the bacon. Comb your hair, he barked, by way of a morning greeting. About once a week, Uncle Vernon looked over the top of his newspaper and shouted that Harry needed a haircut. Yep, they lied to him about what happened. Harry must have had more haircuts than the rest of the boys in his class put together, but it made no difference. His hair simply grew that way, all over the place. So his hair is just like kind of wild all the time. Harry was frying eggs by the time Dudley arrived in the kitchen with his mother. Dudley looked a lot like Uncle Vernon. He had a large, pink face, not much of a neck, so he's like, small, watery blue eyes, and thick blonde hair that lay smoothly on his thick, fat head. This is horrible. Aunt Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. Harry often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. Harry put the plates of egg and bacon on the table, which was difficult as there wasn't much room. Dudley, meanwhile, was counting his presents. His face fell, so he's like, 36, he said, looking up at his mother and father. That's 2 less than last year. Darling, you haven't counted Aunt Marge's present. See? It's here under this big one from Mummy and Daddy. All right, then 37 then, said Dudley, going red in the face. Harry, who could see a huge Dudley tantrum coming on, began wolfing down his bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned the table over. Hi to your cat. Aunt Petunia obviously scented danger too. Yes, in this movie in the movies they are British, so that's kind of why I'm doing a British accent. And I believe it takes place in Britain or like in this area. Oh yes, he's very spoiled. Okay, so I'll keep reading. So right now, because Dudley's like, I'm angry, Harry Potter's like, let me eat this bacon before Dudley flips the table over and ruins breakfast. All right, let's see. Aunt Petunia obviously scented danger too, because she said quickly, and we'll buy you 2 other presents while we're out today. How's that, Pumpkin? 2 more presents. Is that all right? Dudley thought for a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, so I'll have 39 sweetums, said Aunt Petunia. Oh, Dudley sat down heavily and grabbed the nearest parcel. All right, then. Uncle Vernon chuckled. I know, right? Poor Harry. Stop. The little tyke wants his money's worth, just like his father. Attaboy, Dudley. And he ruffled Dudley's hair. They're like, oh, Dudley, you're so sweet. And he's over here being so naughty. At that moment, the telephone rang, and Aunt Petunia went to answer it while Harry and Uncle Vernon watched Dudley unwrap the racing bike, a video camera, a remote control airplane, 16 new computer games, and a VCR. Oh, very nice. He was ripping the paper off a gold wristwatch when Aunt Petunia came back from the telephone, looking both angry and worried. Excuse me. Bad news, Vernon, she said. Mrs. Figg's broken her leg, and she can't take him. She jerked her head in Harry's direction. So they had hired a babysitter for Harry so that they could go celebrate Dudley's birthday without him. Dudley's mouth fell open in horror, but Harry's heart gave a leap. Every year on Dudley's birthday, his parents took him and a friend out for the day to an adventure park, hamburger restaurants, or the movies. Every year, Harry was left behind with Mrs. Figg, a mad old lady who lived 2 streets away. Harry hated it there. The whole house smelled of cabbage, and Mrs. Figg made him look at photographs of all the cats she'd ever owned. Well, now what? Said Aunt Petunia, looking furiously at Harry as though he'd planned this. Harry knew he ought to feel sorry for that. Mrs. Figg had broken her leg, but it wasn't easy when he reminded himself it would be a whole year before he had to look at Tibbles, Snowy, Mr. Paws, and Tufty again. I lost my place. I got distracted by Lulu. Oh, look at, she's trying to escape. You want to go? We'll find him. All right, bye, Lulu.
I peed.
They don't explain how she broke her leg. Let me see. Yeah, it just says that she broke her leg. I don't know. Maybe her cat tripped her because she seems to have a lot of them. I don't know. See, I made an inference. I could infer that Mrs. Figgs broke her leg because she has a lot of cats and maybe she tripped on one of them. I don't know. I could be wrong. All right, let's see. Okay. We could phone Marge, Uncle Vernon suggested. Don't be silly, Vernon. She hates the boy. The Dursleys often spoke about Harry like this, as though he wasn't even there. Or rather, as though he was something very nasty that couldn't understand them, like a slug. Interesting point. What about what's her name? Your friend Yvonne, on vacation in Majorca, snapped Aunt Petunia. You could just leave me here, Harry put in hopefully. He'd be able to watch what he wanted on television for a change, and maybe even have a go on Dudley's computer. I know, my baby. Aunt Petunia looked as though she'd just swallowed a lemon. And come back and find the house in ruins, she snarled. I won't blow up the house, said Harry, but they weren't listening. I suppose we could take him to the zoo, said Aunt Petunia slowly, and leave him in the car. That car's new. He's not sitting in it alone. Dudley began to cry loudly. In fact, he wasn't really crying. It had been years since he'd really cried, but he knew that if he screwed up his face and wailed, his mother would give him anything he wanted. So he's like, he's fake crying. Dinky Duddiams, don't cry. Mummy won't let him spoil your special day. She cried, flinging her arms around him. She's like, oh, my baby. She's so extra. Oh my gosh. And this is Dudley. I don't want him to come, Dudley yelled between huge pretend sobs. He always spoils everything. He shot Harry a nasty grin through the gap in his mother's arms. So, like, his mom's hugging him. So imagine this is his mom, and he's looking at Harry like all evil. Just then the doorbell rang. Oh, good Lord, they're here, said Aunt Petunia frantically. And a moment later, Dudley's best friend, Piers Polkiss, walked in with his mother. Piers was a scrawny boy with a face like a rat. He was usually the one who held people's arms behind their backs while Dudley hit him. Wow. Dudley stopped pretending to cry at once. Right? This is good. This is good. A good way to remember that your children will be the way that you allow them to be, right? You have to raise them to be appreciative of what they have. Dudley is all bad. And half an hour later, Harry, who couldn't believe his luck, was sitting in the back of the Dursleys' car with Piers and Dudley, on the way to the zoo for the first. His aunt and uncle hadn't been able to think of anything else to do with him, but before they'd left, Uncle Vernon had taken Harry aside. I'm warning you, he had said, putting his large purple face right up close to Harry's. I'm warning you now, boy. I'm paused. What does that mean? Stop it. I'll wait. Give me a thumbs up if I'm back. I'll wait. Can you guys see me now? My internet? Maybe. Okay. What was the last thing you heard? Did you hear when Uncle Vernon was talking to Harry? Ugh, internet is so annoying. I have an idea. Let me turn the Wi-Fi off on my phone. Maybe that'll help. Turn that off. All right. I'll go ahead and start right at the part where he was talking to... I'm still paused. Stop it. All right. Are we good? Oh, dang it. Yeah, I'll wait a minute. You guys can all leave for a minute and then come back. And then hopefully that'll work. And I'll wait. Good idea, guys. Okay. See, some people can see me. Ooh. Oh, someone clicked pause. All right, are we good? All right, I'll go ahead and start at the very top of the page. So before they left to the zoo, Uncle Vernon had taken Harry aside. Said, I'm warning you, he had said, putting his large purple face right up to Harry's. I'm warning you now, boy. Any funny business, anything at all, and you'll be in that cupboard from now until Christmas. I'm not going to do anything, said Harry, honestly. But Uncle Vernon didn't believe him. No one ever did. So this is a little like preview as to like how we know that Harry is special. The problem was, no, he's not wearing purple makeup. It's because like he's yelling that his face is turning purple. All right, let's see. So the problem was strange things often happened around Harry, and it was just no good telling the Dursleys he didn't make them happen. Okay. I love you.
I love you too.
Okay. All right, let's see. So basically, when Harry's around, weird things happen and he can't really explain it. Once Aunt Petunia, tired of Harry coming back from the barber's looking as though he hadn't been at all, had taken a pair of kitchen scissors and cut his hair so short he was almost bald except for his bangs, which she left to hide that horrible scar. Dudley had laughed himself silly at Harry, who spent a sleepless night imagining school the next day, where he was already laughed at for his baggy clothes and taped glasses. Let's see. Next morning, however, he had gotten up to find his hair exactly as it had been before Aunt Petunia had sheared it off. He had been given a week in his cupboard for this, even though he had tried to explain that he couldn't explain how it had grown back so quickly. He just gets in trouble for everything. Another time, Aunt Petunia had been trying to force him into a revolting old sweater of Dudley's, brown, with orange puffballs. The harder she tried to pull it over his head, the smaller it seemed to become, until finally it might have fitted a hand puppet, but it certainly wouldn't fit Harry. So she was trying to force the sweater on him, and it magically shrank. Aunt Petunia had decided it must have shrunk in the wash, and to his great relief, Harry wasn't punished. On the other hand, he had gotten into trouble, terrible trouble, for being found on the roof of the school kitchens. Dudley's gang had been chasing him as usual when, as much to Harry's surprise as anyone else's, there he was sitting on the chimney. The Dursleys had received a very angry letter from Harry's headmistress telling them Harry had been climbing school buildings. But all he tried to do, as he shouted at Uncle Vernon through the locked door of his cupboard, was jump behind the big trash cans outside the kitchen doors. Harry supposed that the wind must have caught him in mid-jump. But today, nothing was going to go wrong. It was even worth being with Dudley and Pierce to be spending the day somewhere that wasn't school, his cupboard, or Mrs. Figg's cabbage-smelling living room. I see. Yeah, I think someone hit pause on accident, but we should be good now. And if you miss any of this, it'll post later on, so you can always rewatch it. Okay, let's see. Okay, while he drove, Uncle Vernon complained to Aunt Petunia. He liked to complain about things. People at work, Harry the council, Harry the bank, and Harry were just a few of his favorite subjects. This morning, it was motorcycles. Roaring along like maniacs, the young hoodlums, he said, as a motorcycle overtook them. I had a dream about a motorcycle, said Harry, remembering suddenly. It was flying. Uncle Vernon nearly crashed into the car in front. He turned right around in his seat and yelled at Harry, his face like a gigantic beet with a mustache. Motorcycles do not fly! Dudley and Pierce laughed. I know they don't, said Harry. It was only a dream. No, you said you weren't going to interrupt, so you need to sit down. Please. Okay. Come on, honey. But he wished he hadn't said anything. If there was one thing the Dursleys hated even more than him asking questions, it was him talking about anything, acting in a way it shouldn't. No matter if it was in a dream or even in a cartoon, they seemed to think he might get dangerous ideas. It was a very sunny Saturday, and the zoo was crowded with families. The Dursleys bought Dudley and Pierce large chocolate ice creams at the entrance, and then, because the smiling lady in the van had asked Harry what he wanted before they could hurry him away, they bought him a cheap lemon ice pop. It wasn't bad either, Harry thought, licking it as they watched a gorilla scratching its head, who looked remarkably just like Dudley, except that it wasn't blonde. Harry had the best morning he had had in a long time. He was careful to walk a little way apart from the Dursleys, so that Dudley and Pierce, who were starting to get bored with the animals by lunchtime, wouldn't fall back on their favorite hobby of hitting him. They ate in the zoo restaurant, and when Dudley had a tantrum because his Knickerbocker Glory didn't have enough ice cream on top, Uncle Vernon bought him another one, and Harry was allowed to finish the first one. Harry felt afterward that he should have known it was all too good to last. This is where things get interesting. After lunch, they went to the reptile house. It was cool and dark in there. It had lit windows along the walls. Behind the glass, all sorts of lizards and snakes were crawling and slithering over bits of wood and stone. Dudley and Piers wanted to see huge, poisonous cobras and thick, man-crushing pythons. Dudley quickly found the largest snake in the whole entire place. It could have wrapped its body twice around Uncle Vernon's car and crushed it into a trash can. But at the moment, it didn't look in the mood. In fact, it was fast asleep. Dudley stood with his nose pressed against the glass, staring at the glistening brown coils. So just like imagine Dudley like this, looking at the snake. Oh, he's going to start whining again. Make it move, he whined at his father. Uncle Vernon tapped on the glass, but the snake didn't budge. Do it again, Dudley ordered. Uncle Vernon tapped the glass smartly with his knuckles, but the snake just snoozed on. This is boring, Dudley moaned, and he shuffled away. Harry moved in front of the tank and looked intently at the snake. He wouldn't have been surprised if it had died of boredom itself. No company except stupid people drumming their fingers on the glass, trying to disturb it all day long. You guys notice that, like, when you go to like a zoo or like an aquarium, they tell you to not hit the glass because it bothers the animals? Goodness gracious. No respect for the animals. All right. It was worse than having a cupboard as a bedroom, where the only visitor was Aunt Petunia hammering on the door to wake you up. At least he got to visit the rest of the house. The snake suddenly opened its beady eyes. Slowly, very slowly, it raised its head until its eyes were on a level with Harry's. And then guess what, guys? The snake winked at him. He was like, Harry stared. I'm not reading the whole book. Not today. Like I said. Do you see that? I have to like eat eventually, you know?
I'm hungry, speaking of eating.
We'll eat after I'm done with this, okay? Okay.
Go downstairs and get me something.
I'll be done pretty soon, okay? What do you want?
What is there?
Let me think. How about this? Let me finish this up, okay? Yeah, Dudley is pretty terrible. All right, so the snake winks at Harry.
Can I have, like, cereal?
You want cereal? Yeah, you can ask Devin to get you a bowl of cereal.
Is he downstairs?
I think so.
Okay. Hi. Bye. Hi. Bye.
Go get your snack. All right, I'm back. Okay.
Sorry, I was distracting.
You're fine. Get out of here.
Oh.
All right, I'm going to start.
Bye, you guys. It's completely dark back here.
Turn the light on so you can see. There you go. All right, here we go.
Peekaboo.
Go get your cereal.
Peekaboo.
Okay, back to it. Harry stared. Then he looked quite quickly around to see if anyone was watching. They weren't. He looked back at the snake and winked too. The snake jerked its head toward Uncle Vernon and Dudley, then raised its eyes to the ceiling. It gave Harry a look that said, quite plainly, I get that all the time. I know, Harry murmured through the glass, though he wasn't sure the snake could hear him. It must be really annoying. The snake nodded vigorously, so the snake's like, yep, it happens all the time. It's very annoying. Where do you come from anyway? Harry asked. The snake jabbed its tail to a little sign next to the glass. Harry peered at it. Boa constrictor. Brazil. Was it nice there? The boa constrictor jabbed its tail to the sign again, and Harry read on. The sign says, this specimen was bred in the zoo. Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil? So the snake is saying that it was like raised and born at the zoo. So that's kind of sad. He was never really... Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I can't comb these out. I've been going through and rebraiding them though. All right, let's see. So yeah, the poor snake has never even been to Brazil, even though that's where it's originally from. It was bred in captivity. So then Harry asks him, "Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil?" As the snake shook its head, a deafening shout behind Harry made both of them jump. Dudley! Mr. Dursley! Come and look at this snake! You won't believe what it's doing! Dudley came waddling toward them as fast as he could. Out of the way, you! He said, punching Harry in the ribs. Caught by surprise, Harry fell hard on the concrete floor. What came next happened so fast, no one saw how it happened. 1 second, Piers and Dudley were leaning right up close to the glass. The next, they had leapt back with howls of horror. Harry sat up and gasped. The glass front of the boa constrictor's tank had vanished. The great snake was uncoiling itself rapidly, slithering out onto the floor.
He has to give me one of these.
What? Is that how you wanted it?
No, I just asked
Did you
for
want
a
it
bag.
with milk?
No, I wanted it in like a bag.
You know, it's fine.
Yeah.
Here we go.
She said don't unlace it.
That's fine. That's good. All right. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, he pushes Harry out of the way, but then the glass magically disappears. So then what's his name? Piersley? Or just, Piers and Dudley fall into the snake tank. The great snake was uncoiling itself rapidly, slithering out onto the floor. People throughout the reptile house screamed and started running for the exits. As the snake slid swiftly past him, Harry could have sworn a low hissing voice said, Brazil, here I come. Thanks again, amigo. The keeper of the reptile house was in shock. So the snake says, thank you. I'm off to Brazil. But the glass, he kept saying. Where did the glass go? The zoo director himself made Aunt Petunia a cup of strong sweet tea while he apologized over and over again. Piers and Dudley could only gibber. As far as Harry had seen, the snake hadn't done anything except snap playfully at their heels as it passed. But by the time they were back in Uncle Vernon's car, Dudley was telling them how it had nearly bitten off his leg, while Piers was swearing it had tried to squeeze him to death. But worst of all, for Harry at least, was Piers calming down enough to say, Harry was talking to it. Weren't you, Harry? So the snake didn't hurt the boys. He just was messing with them. He was like, and he kind of went for their ankles, but he never planned on eating them. This time, anyways. I'm just kidding. All right, let's see. So then Piers is like, you were talking to it, weren't you, Harry? Uncle Vernon waited until Piers was safely out of the house before starting on Harry. He was so angry, he could hardly speak. He managed to say, go, cupboard, stay, no meals, before he collapsed into a chair, and Aunt Petunia had to run and get him a large brandy. Harry lay in his dark cupboard much later, wishing he had a watch. He didn't know what time it was, and he couldn't be sure that the Dursleys were asleep yet, until they were. He couldn't risk sneaking to the kitchen for some food. He'd lived with the Dursleys almost 10 years. 10 miserable years. As long as he could remember. Ever since he'd been a baby and his parents had died in that car crash, he couldn't remember being in the car when his parents had died. Sometimes, when he strained his memory during long hours in his cupboard, he came up with a strange vision. So this is honestly what he can remember, and it's the only thing he can remember from when Voldemort attacked him and his parents. Yeah, Harry is 10 years old. I think he's supposed to be turning 11. I think they go over that a little bit later.
So you see that can?
Pause, hold on.
I had one of those because remember when I went to that Christmas thing with you this year? In the goodie bags, the girl who gave me it, she had these in it. And I gave one to Jazar so she can keep it because there was 2 of them.
Oh, that was so nice of you.
So I kept a sour one, then she took a sweeter one.
I think I'll continue posting. Maybe not every single day, but I'll definitely try to keep up with it. For sure. I know. I'm going to make mac and cheese after this. Homemade. It's going to be good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and keep reading. Let's see. Oh, so this is the last thing that Harry can remember from when he was a baby. And he doesn't know if it's real or not. Some candy that she saw in a YouTube video. That's what she gave the your sister. Okay, let's see. Here we go. He came up with a strange vision. Never had mac and cheese. You need to get on that ASAP. It's delicious. It's cheese and mac. Okay, sorry. So, Harry remembers a blinding flash of green light and a burning pain in his forehead. This, he supposed, was the crash, though he couldn't imagine where all the green light had came from. Green light. He couldn't remember his parents at all. His aunt and uncle never spoke about them. And of course, he was forbidden to ask questions. There were no photographs of them in the house. When he had been younger, Harry had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family, yet sometimes he thought, or maybe hoped, that strangers in the streets seemed to know him. Very strange strangers they were, too. A tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to him once while out shopping with Aunt Petunia and Dudley. Interesting. After asking Harry furiously if he knew the man, Aunt Petunia had rushed them out of the shop without buying anything. Oh, interesting. A wild-looking old woman dressed in all green had waved merrily at him once on a bus. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken his hand in the street the other day and then walked away without a word. The weirdest thing about all these people was that the way they seemed to vanish the second Harry tried to get a closer look. So, I don't know if you realize, but all these strangers that Harry's running into are actually wizards. So remember in the beginning of the story, Uncle Vernon is talking about how, foreshadowing. Yep, exactly. Uncle Vernon talked about all the weird people with the robe. So these are people that know Harry, but Harry doesn't even know who he himself is. He doesn't know how famous he is. All right, I'm getting to the very end of this chapter, guys. Let's see. At school, Harry had no one. Everybody knew that Dudley's gang hated that odd Harry Potter in his baggy old clothes and broken glasses, and nobody liked to disagree with Dudley's gang. Okay, guys, so I'm going to look at this next chapter to see how long it is. Yeah, so the good news is tomorrow's chapter is a lot longer, as you can see, but I do need to, apparently he's really scary. Anyways, so I'm going to actually stop here for today. I will do this again tomorrow at the same time, 6 o'clock. I have to cook dinner, else I would read a little bit more. Let me see. Let me look. Maybe I can read a couple pages from here because it is kind of a long chapter. Let's see. Would you guys like me to read a few more pages of chapter 3? Because I can. I have a little bit of time. Should I, or should I end it now? Well, it looks like some people are going to go eat. Yeah. Tomorrow, it'll be 6 o'clock. All right. I see some people want me to read a little bit more. Okay. I'll read a little bit more. I'm going to read like 2 to 3 pages, and then I'll stop. I'll leave it on a cliffhanger. You guys know how I do. All right. So chapter 3. Ooh, this is a fun chapter. Is the letters from no one. Okay. You know what? I need water. I'm going to go grab a drink of water really fast. I'll be back. I'm back with water. Okay, I'm back. Well, did you get on the video? Did you hop on right now?
What?
Did you get on the video right now?
What?
Did you get on the video right now? Did Akari get on the video? They'll tell me. Did you say hi?
Hi.
She didn't. I thought for sure she would. Oh, yeah, she can't hear you guys. All right. Yeah, this is a good chapter. I'm going to start it, but then, as you know, I'm going to stop. All right, the letters that came from no one. The escape of the Brazilian boa constrictor earned Harry his longest ever punishment. By the time he was allowed out of his cupboard again, the summer holidays had started, and Dudley had already...
Do you want to have a marshmallow?
No, thank you, honey. Sorry. Oh, so summer holidays had started, and Dudley had already broken his new video camera, crashed his remote control airplane, and first time out on his racing bike, knocked down old Mrs. Fig as she crossed Privet Drive on her crutches. Harry was glad school was over, but there was no escaping Dudley's gang, who visited the house every single day. It's all right. I'm going to keep reading. All right, let's see. Piers, Dennis, Malcolm, and Gordon were all big and stupid. But as Dudley was the biggest and stupidest of the lot, he was the leader. The rest of them were all quite happy to join in Dudley's favorite sport, Harry hunting. This was why Harry spent as much time as possible out of the house, wandering around and thinking about the end of the holidays, where he could see a tiny ray of hope. When September came, he would be going off to secondary school, and for the first time in his life, he wouldn't be with Dudley. Dudley had been accepted at Uncle Vernon's old private school, Smeltings. Piers Polkiss was going there too. Harry, on the other hand, was going to Stonewall High, the local public school. Dudley thought this was very funny. Okay, so, what was I going to say? He is in elementary school technically, but I guess where Harry is from, they call it like high. Even they don't say high school; they say Stonewall High. I don't know. I think that's because he's gonna get ready to start like sixth grade.
I'm gonna go somewhere.
Go ahead. I think
Cheerios.
No.
But no, I'm gonna get the Honey Nut Cheerios because those aren't sweet.
I'm gonna make dinner.
But I'm still. Tell me in my hungry.
Go tell Devin that the bags are in the pantry.
What bag?
The Ziploc bags.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, I'm gonna get the Honey Nut Cheerios only.
Okay.
Wait, no cinnamon. So you're saying? Oh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Just get your snack.
Okay, I'm gonna choose the snack though.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm back. All right, let's see. So, Dudley's telling Harry, "They stuffed people's heads down the toilet the first day at Stonewall," he told Harry. "Want to come upstairs and practice?" "No thanks," said Harry. "The poor toilet's never had anything as horrible as your head down it. It might be sick." Then he ran before Dudley could work out what he'd said. One day in July, Aunt Petunia took Dudley to London to buy him smelting uniforms, leaving Harry at Mrs. Figg's. Mrs. Figg's wasn't as bad as usual. It turned out she'd broken her leg tripping over one of her cats. My inference was correct. That's hilarious. And she didn't seem quite as fond of them as before, so she's mad at her cats. She let Harry watch television and gave him a bit of chocolate cake that tasted as though she'd had it for several years. Ugh. That evening, Dudley paraded around the living room for the family in his brand new uniform. Smelting boys wore maroon tailcoats, orange knickerbockers, which are pants. I was like, what is that? It's spelled KNICKERBOCKERS. Anyways, and flat straw. What?
They're like a little gummy heart heart stickers that we put on the window.
It's not a big deal.
But
They
can
don't
we
last
get the
forever.
other ones again? Can we get them again for the next
Hold on a second. Yeah, don't worry.
I didn't do my cereal yet.
Okay, I'm trying to finish this, babe.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. A little mini tragedy. All right, let's see. And flat straw hats called boaters. They also carried knobby sticks used for hitting each other while the teachers weren't looking. This was supposed to be good training for later life. As he looked at Dudley in his new knickerbockers, Uncle Vernon said gruffly that it was the proudest moment of his life. Aunt Petunia burst into tears and said she couldn't believe her ickle duckly dunklings. He looked so handsome and grown up. Harry didn't trust himself to speak. He thought 2 of his ribs might already have cracked from trying not to laugh. There was a horrible smell in the kitchen the next morning when Harry went in for breakfast. It seemed to come from a large metal tub in the sink. He went to have a look. The tub was full of what looked like dirty rags swimming in gray water. "What's this?" he asked Petunia. Her lips tightened as they always did if he dared to ask a question. "Your new school uniform," she said. Harry looked in the bowl again. "Oh," he said. "I didn't realize it had to be so wet." "Don't be stupid," said Aunt Petunia. "I'm dyeing some of Dudley's old things gray for you. It'll look just like everyone else's when I'm finished." Harry seriously doubted this, but thought it best not to argue. He sat down at the table and tried not to think about how he was going to look on his first day at Stonewall High. Like he was wearing old bits of elephant skin, probably. Dudley and Uncle Vernon came in, both with wrinkled noses, because of the smell from Harry's new uniform. Uncle Vernon opened his newspaper as usual, and Dudley banged his smelting stick, which he carried everywhere, on the table. Yeah, his poor uniform, I'm trying to picture it in my mind. It sounds very sad. Let's see. Oh, Uncle Vernon opened his newspaper as usual, and Dudley banged his smelting stick, which he carried everywhere, on the table. They heard the click of the mail slot and flop of letters on the doormat. So, I don't know if a lot of houses still have this, but some houses used to have a little entrance, almost like a doggy door, but a small one for letters. So when you would get your mail, it would go through your door. So they hear the click of the mail slot and flop of letters on the doormat. "Get the mail, Dudley," said Uncle Vernon from behind his paper. "Make Harry get it." "Get the mail, Harry." "Make Dudley get it." "Poke him with your smelting stick, Dudley." Harry dodged the smelting stick and went to get the mail. 3 things lay on the doormat. A postcard from Uncle Vernon's sister Marge, who was vacationing on the Isle of Wight, a brown envelope that looked like a bill, and a letter for Harry. Harry picked it up and stared at it, his heart twanging like a giant elastic band. No one ever in his whole life had written to him. Who would? He had no friends. Yeah, it is kind of a good comparison, like the things in jail. Anyways, he had no friends and no other relatives. He didn't belong to the library, so he'd never even gotten rude notes asking for books back. Yet here it was, a letter addressed so plainly there could be no mistake. And I'm going to stop there for today. So, with that being said, I'm going to sign off so I can cook dinner. It's kind of late, so I need to cook something. But thank you guys for joining me today. We're on chapter 3. I'll kind of review what we read if you had to sign off early. But tomorrow it'll be at 6 p.m. again, okay? All right. Bye, guys.
I got fruit cup.
Oh, and Akari has a fruit cup, so life is good. All right. All right. Yes. So, yes, you have a great night. You guys have a wonderful night. Keep your heads up. Also, make sure that you're checking the lessons that I'm posting on YouTube. It'll be at 6 p.m. tomorrow, okay? 6 p.m. All right. I'll post a reminder, but I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye. Miss you all. Bye. Bye. Okay, bye. I'm out of here.
Don't forget to say hi to me on the next video.
Yeah, she'll be here. All right, bye, guys.
I'll be here on all the videos. You know it. This is actually my house too, you know.
Bye.
Bye. Make sure you don't say hi to me. Make sure you do say hi
Bye.
to me. I have